When you first see what's possible with 3D printing, it's hard to keep your imagination from running wild. And you start to convince yourself that it wouldn't really take that long to make a full Iron Man costume. But to make those superhero dreams come true, you'll need a 3D printer. Anycubic is a company that has been making 3D printers since 2015. Its line of printers is well respected among 3D printing circles, and some have even called the company's i3 Mega the best 3D printer under $300. But in the world of 3D printing, you have to evolve or you get left behind. For Anycubic, this evolution comes in the form of this guy. This is Anycubic's new Viper, but is this printer truly an evolution? Or is it a step back for Anycubic? We're going to help you answer that question. I'm Matt with the Make Use of Product Reviews team, and today we're taking a closer look at the new Viper by Anycubic. So the first thing to talk about here today is the build quality and the design of this 3D printer. Now, like its namesake, the Viper is a sleek and relatively silent creature with some killer surprises, the most prominent of which are the new self-leveling and the heated bed features. These types of budget-level hobbyist printers are ideal for folks looking to cut their teeth in 3D printing. That said, the Viper will also work well for more experienced users. The Viper offers a 245 by 245 millimeter heated print bed with a removable magnetic build surface. This textured surface is said to be scratch resistant and is flexible for easy removal of completed prints. If you're new to 3D printers, a heated bed helps keep the plastic that is extruded from the nozzle warm. This warmth allows for better adhesion and better overall print quality. Height of the print area is 260 millimeters, so you can print some pretty large models if the mood takes you. The Viper also ships with a color screen and an easy-to-use interface. On the SD card included in the kit, you'll get the manual, you'll get 3 Cura profiles, and a test print. To transfer files to the printer, you can either use the SD card or you can use a direct USB connection. For the slicer, I used Cura as it was included with the Viper setup materials, and Anycubic also included those 3 material-specific Cura profiles. The owner's manual on this unit also states that the Viper can print PETG and wood. As for the hot end, the Viper is equipped with an all-metal Volcano style with what looks like a full aluminum heatsink. The hot end's 0.4 millimeter nozzle is fed via a Bowden tube from a double gear extruder. Underneath the hood of the Viper is a 32-bit Cortex M3 architecture high-performance main control chip capable of handling resolutions down to 0.1 millimeter. As for noise level, to minimize this snake's hiss, Anycubic has integrated a TMC 2209 silent stepper driver. Overall, the driver means that the stepper motors are almost silent. Now, inside the box for the Viper, you'll get the Viper base and the frame, the display screen, a filament holder, a data cable, the power cord, you'll get a section of test filament, a replacement nozzle, ours came with 2 extra, an SD card, and a USB SD card reader. You also get an after-sale service card, a toolkit, which gives you a scraper, Allen wrenches, box end wrenches, a pair of snips, and a nozzle cleaning tool. You'll also get the assembly instructions, the tip sheets, and the quick start guide. So what about assembly? Well, the Viper goes together fairly quickly. They're just 4 hex head screws that attach the base to the Z-axis frame, which includes the gantry. Once you've installed the 4 bolts under the unit, you've pretty much completed the majority of the assembly. Now, after installing the frame and the screen, you'll need to plug in each of the motors, as well as the other electronic components for the sensors and the screen. But the data cable routes these connections close to each endpoint, which makes these connections foolproof. After that, you set the proper voltage coming from your wall outlet, you plug the Viper in, and you turn the unit on. It's really that easy. As for leveling, one of the biggest selling points that Anycubic boasts is the new auto leveling feature of this unit. So naturally, leveling the print bed was my next step. Essentially, you'll tap the prepare tile on the LCD screen, and then you tap on the leveling and auto leveling tiles. Once you start the process, it takes about 3 minutes roughly, and the hot end will track 16 points on the print bed. After leveling, you shouldn't have to make any Z-axis adjustments. Unfortunately for me, This is where I began to run into a few issues. When the auto leveling was complete, as I started to print the test file, the hot end slid over the build surface, placed a thin skirt, and began to screech. So I immediately turned the unit off. That's when I saw that the nozzle had scratched a slight gouge in the build surface. So I adjusted the Z-axis slightly and tried to perform the leveling a second time. This time, however, the hot end touched down at the lower left corner of the print bed, then moved over to the right corner and touched down and started beeping. From there, the unit's screen got stuck on probing and it wouldn't auto level. Now I figured the scraping of the bed had caused some issues with the nozzle, so I removed the cover for the hot end to check the assembly. Sure enough, when the unit scraped, looks like the metal support holding the hot end level had shifted a bit. I adjusted the bracket holding the hot end until it was perfectly level, then I put everything back together. From there, I restarted the auto leveling process, and this time everything worked. Now for someone without any mechanical experience, this might have caused a little bit of frustration. For me, it was only a minor inconvenience that offered some additional insight on how the unit was constructed. That said, I think it's important to cautiously approach the auto leveling process. In other words, don't walk away from the printer while you're auto leveling or during its first print, and don't trust the leveling to be perfect without a possible Z-axis adjustment. Loading filament on this unit is done via an extruder and a Bowden tube. Now, like setup, this was an easy process. You get the hot end up to temperature and you feed the filament into the dual gear extruder. You press a few buttons on the touchscreen and you wait until you see filament oozing out of the nozzle. So moving on to the software and the onboard interface. Now you control the printer via a 4.3-inch touchscreen that's just a bit smaller than an iPhone. This interface isn't exactly full color, it's more of like a monochromatic blue. The menus are easy to understand and everything is nested in a logical order. I think my favorite feature of the included interface is the ability to change settings on the fly. If, for example, you realize your nozzle is just a bit too high, you can adjust the Z-axis while the print is still going. During testing, this feature actually saved a couple of my prints. As far as the slicer settings, the Cura default PLA profile did a nice job of getting decent quality prints. Like many other testers, I used the popular Benchy and Calibration Cat models that are widely available on Thingiverse to dial in the settings. I did find that like most 3D printers, slower prints resulted in much higher quality. With the Benchy, hull banding was minimal, though I did get a bit of over extrusion and stringing in a couple of places with the default settings. I also toyed around a bit with infill and print resolution, but these settings weren't as consistent as sticking with the standard 20% infill and 0.2mm defaults. The exception here was an octopus that I printed in 0.1mm resolution at 50mm a second. This print came out phenomenal, but I've had trouble getting duplicate results even with the same settings. On my test Benchy, I did notice a few slight gaps when bridging, but again, this may have been a problem with the speed of the print and not with the printer itself. I will say that based on my prints, there is some inconsistency across the board. Some prints have come out awesome, and some I've had to stop in the middle of printing because I could see they weren't going to give me a proper finished product. For me, I think the optimization is kind of fun, and it's interesting to dial in the settings to try and eke out as much quality as possible. I'm not sure how others view this, but if you don't like tinkering, then this is something you'll need to consider when looking at this printer. So what do we love about the Anycubic Viper 3D desktop printer? I think the novice-friendly setup and the interface are two amazing features here. And while leveling didn't go right immediately for me, I've managed to get through almost an entire roll of filament during my testing, and I would say that around 80% of my prints have been successful. Additionally, from opening the box to actually printing your first test print takes less than half an hour. The heated bed and the flexible spring steel build surface are also nice on the Viper. These features make removing projects easy, and the textured surface didn't seem to pick up any fingerprints. I did do a couple of alcohol wipe downs, but I didn't have to use glue sticks or hairspray or any of that other nonsense to get the prints to adhere well to the bed surface. Noise on the unit was also manageable and measured at around 59 to 60 decibels, while the fans were at 100%. I also like that there's a wide variety of filament that you can use here. Finally, once the settings are dialed in, you can achieve some really phenomenal prints with very little effort. So what's not to love here? Well, because the auto leveling is the main selling point of the Viper, it was a bit disappointing for this process to go so wonky at the beginning of our testing. To have the Viper gouge the scratch-resistant plate out of the box makes me a little cautious overall. I think another thing that rubbed me the wrong way with the Viper was the accessibility of the hot end components. Now, customization and 3D printing are pretty much synonymous, and makers like myself want to know what they can and can't take apart. For the Viper, the hot end components were tethered in place by the data cable connection. Even after removing the bolts for the cover, to access the hot end I had to pick some flexible adhesive out of the electrical connector. Without doing so, the data cable would not release, which prevented removal of the cover and access to the hot end components. While this may not be an issue for some, for me, accessing the hot end to diagnose the leveling issue was the difference between a working unit and a non-working unit. So, while I can appreciate Anycubic not wanting users monkeying around with the electronics, I don't believe that preventing access to the physical elements of a commonly customized component makes much sense. And what if a thermistor dies or a nozzle breaks inside the heating block? Is the user just supposed to send the whole works back to Anycubic? I think it's much easier just to let the end user access these components from the get-go. I also wanted to point out a slight issue that I had with the tool drawer. This storage drawer is held in place via 2 magnets, and I think it's a useful storage place for tools. It's really nice to have them close at hand if you need them. But for some reason on my unit, the drawer wouldn't fully close. Instead, once you pressed it in, the drawer would stick out about a half an inch. Now, after a little testing, I found that this was because the magnets on the rear of the drawer had been installed opposite of their intended polarity. So I just used a small screwdriver to unstick the magnets from the back of the drawer, and then I reversed them. Now, once I did this, the drawer stayed closed. I think this is a minor detail, but again, it leads me to believe that quality control might not have been the tightest during the initial factory assembly. Finally, dialing in this machine was done over several days through tedious trial and error. With Anycubic's included printer profiles and the recommended software, one expects that the unit would be almost plug and play. Clearly, this wasn't the case. Unfortunately, while I enjoy tinkering to get things right, some people won't have the patience. So can you repair the Anycubic Viper? With the exception of the main board and the aforementioned hot end connector, all of the components on the Anycubic Viper are easily swappable. None of the motors or switches are concealed. Likewise, the nozzle, extruder, Bowden tube, belts, and plate bearings are all on display if something goes wrong. So yes, knowledgeable 3D printer mechanics can fix things if something happens outside of the 1-year warranty period. Brave souls could attempt the removal of the hot end as long as they accept the consequences of Anycubic's access limitation. That means if you open the Viper up to mess with the hot end, you may very well void the warranty. So, do so at your own risk. Now we've come to that big question, should you buy the Anycubic Viper 3D printer? I think yes, but with a few caveats. I think for a first printer, this unit, like its namesake, might provoke fear unless you've done your research. So just be prepared to do some calibration, and don't expect that you'll be able to take this unit out of the box as a first timer and have everything run perfectly. To me, this printer is designed for those who are comfortable with tuning their unit to get everything right. That's not to say that this printer is bad, it's actually very good. Once you've got everything the way you like it, the Viper can generate some truly magical prints with a high level of detail. I can honestly see the Viper being a great fit as a second printer or for someone that would like to add a decently capable unit to their existing farm. Overall, the Viper is a fine 3D printer that has a few kinks that need to be accounted for. Granted, these aren't bad enough missteps to warrant a poor rating, though I do think it's a bit ironic that a machine designed to capture such exquisite detail would flub on some of the most important ones. So I would like to thank Anycubic for sending the Viper along for testing, and if you want to read our full review of this 3D printer, you can check that out on makeuseof.com. If you found this video helpful, then hit that like button, and if you want to start a conversation, you can leave me a comment here or come find me on Twitter. For Make Use Of, my name's Matt Hall. I appreciate you watching today, and we will see you next time.